would be nice so that I know that you're there. I'm not talking to myself. But we are going to keep working on Hachiko. So I'm going to present my screen. And if you guys could pull up Hachiko, that story as well. Alrighty. Okay, once you get it pulled up, just shoot me a little, I'm done, I'm there. Just something. Alright. Alright, so pulling up Hachiko, and we'll get going in about 1 minute. Give you guys a second to pull it up. We're going to do 2 sections today. I don't think they'll take super long. Both of them are graded though, so I'm going to kind of talk you through them, but you guys will be answering them on your own. And then we have a short writing. There we go. Now can you guys hear me? I was messing with the cord of the head. Okay, that wire keeps coming out. Can you hear me? The headphones are not like nice today. Alright, if it ever cuts off and I'm like in the middle of talking and I stop, let me know because the cord for this headphone is not working super great. So say that in the chat so that I know. But let's go ahead and get started over on Hachiko. So remember Hachiko, this cute doggy right here, is a dog that was so loyal to his owner that even after his owner passed away, he would still go to the train station that they went to every day and wait for him. And then he passed away, and every day that dog would just sit there. Kentaro is a little girl from the story. She is also very loyal to Hachiko, wanted to keep him when the owner passed away, but the parents just said no, can't keep him. So she visited him most days to see him at the train station as well. Plus, her dad was getting off the train. So that's kind of the story right there. There is now a statue of Hachiko in that train station in Japan. So when people want to go meet at that train station, they'll say, let's go meet at Hachiko and see each other. So it's kind of a cool story. I like that it's a true story too. So what we are going to do today is under making meaning, we are going to go scroll down to analyze, craft, and structure. That is our first mission, our first assignment for the day. Analyze, craft, and structure. Okay, so go ahead and get that pulled up. I'll give you about a minute. And then I'll read through it, review the questions, but I am going to ask you guys to do the questions on your own today. Okay. Microphone is on. Can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay. Doesn't seem.
Can you hear me now? Nope. Okay, let's. Can you guys hear me? If I unplug it, this thing doesn't seem to be picking up the sound at all. Yes, no. Can you all hear me? Doesn't look like my computer is giving off. So you can? Okay. It just doesn't look like mine is making any noise when you look at that thing. So we'll just keep going and hopefully this works. Okay. All right. So let's talk about historical fiction really quick, and then we'll answer some questions about it. But historical fiction is when writers base fictional stories, so fake stories, off of real events from the past. So it's historical fiction because it's based off of a real thing in history. But they kind of add their own details as well. So historical fiction uses the facts from history, but blends them together with the author's imagination and things that they come up with as well. So it's like half true, half false. Historical fiction often shows what the past might have been like because we weren't there, so it kind of gives us an idea of the past. Certain literary elements are especially important in this type of fiction. The first one is the setting. This is the time and place where the story happens. In historical fiction, the setting has to be true. You can't just suddenly put something that happened in Japan in the United States. It's not going to go very well. So the setting has to be a true thing, but you can make up the events that go on in the setting. So the setting must show the actual place. In addition, if you're going to make up places when you write historical fiction, it has to be believable. You can't just make up whatever you want to make up and hope that it sounds good. It's got to be believable with the context of the story. The next one is the conflict, which is the struggle or the problem that the characters face. The story shows where the conflict begins, increases, and ends. But in historical fiction, the conflict might show a situation, how a situation or the character, like the dog, became famous or important. So the conflict is based on true events, but it might have fictional characters in them as well. And then finally, we have the theme. This is the message about life or human nature that tells a story. Um, Historical fiction often combines the real and imaginative events to express the theme. So this is kind of the moral of the story, the lesson that you learn. It's the lesson that people learned when it happened in real life, but again, it's going to blend together some imagination from the author. So in this story, Hachiko and Dr. Ueno are real things. Dr. Ueno is a real person and Hachiko is a real dog. They did live in Tokyo in the early 20th century, which is, they lived, I think, in like the 1920s. I think Hachiko was born in 1923, if I remember correctly. The Shibuya station is a real place, so that's a real train station. Dr. Reino's death and Hachiko's actions of going there every day really did happen. However, Kentaro, the little boy in the story, and his parents are not real. They're fictional. They are made up characters. Their actions and what they did are also not real, but they are based on real things that people felt and did. But Kentaro and the mom and dad are not actually real people from that time period. So that's kind of the definition of the historical fiction there. And then we're going to go ahead and answer some questions based on that knowledge. We can still hear me, correct? All good? Yes, no, maybe so. Good. All right, awesome. Thank you. So let's go ahead and do these couple of questions right here. Our first one, you're gonna respond to this. How does the setting at the beginning of the story compare with the description of the Shibuya station at the end? Explain how this change shows the importance of Hachiko's story to the people in Tokyo. So at the beginning of the story, they talk about the train station and how the trains frighten the little boy, um, and how the dog is there just waiting, all of that stuff. And then at the end, they describe the very, very end how there's now a statue there instead. There's still the station is still there, but now it's much, much bigger. Hundreds of thousands of people travel through it every day. So, why is this important to the story? Why does it matter what the setting was like at the beginning and at the end? Okay, so that's your first question. Try to write in a complete sentence, please. Okay. How does the setting change and why is it important? Give you about 2 minutes to do that first one. Sorry, fixing up the computer. Okay, I'll give that one more minute and then we're gonna go look at our next one. Alright, so number 2 here. Also, these are graded, so make sure you go back and complete them if you don't during our lesson here. Number 2, in the charts. So there's a chart down here. We are going to record the details that show the loyalty between Hachiko and the other characters in the story. So the loyalty between the dog to the other people. And what possible theme do these details suggest? So we're going to open up that chart and we are going to start filling this out. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to do it. So for part A, in the chart, we're going to record the loyalty between Hachiko and the other characters. So what is Dr. Ueno's loyalty to Hachiko? So is Dr. Ueno loyal to Hachiko? Remember, Dr. Ueno is Hachiko's owner. Then you'll do the opposite direction. How loyal is Hachiko to Dr. Ueno? You'll do both ways there. Same with Kentaro, the little boy. How is Kentaro loyal to Hachiko? And then how is Hachiko loyal to Kentaro? And then you got Mr. Kobayashi. Do you guys remember who he is? Any idea of who Mr. Kobayashi was? Any thoughts on that one? No, don't remember? Alright. Mr. Kobayashi was the gardener at the station, or at Dr. Ueno's house. So he took care of the house. So how was Mr. Kobayashi loyal to Hachiko? And the other way, how was Hachiko loyal to Mr. Kobayashi? And then anybody else in the story. Was anybody else loyal to Hachiko? Um, and then was Hachiko loyal to anybody else in the story besides these three characters? And then you want to put right here the lesson that you learned. So the lesson based on the loyalty of these people and the dog. Okay? So I'm going to give you a few minutes to work on this one and get some stuff typed out here. We'll do about 4 or 5 minutes. How are these people loyal to Hachiko, the dog, and how was Hachiko loyal to him? Okay, we'll do about 3 more minutes. Okay, fill out as much of the chart as you can. Then we are going to move on. All of these things you can complete on your own. This is a graded section, the Analyze Crafted Structure, so you want to make sure you complete this section. Even if you aren't able to complete it during class, make sure you go back and do it later. Okay, about 2 more minutes. If you finish up, you can definitely let me know in the chat. It's always helpful, especially because I can't check your work. So. Alrighty. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this and we're going to look at our next question here. If you didn't finish it, make sure you please go back and finish it after. So our next one, number 3 here. Both Hachiko and Kentaro face conflicts with Dr. Ueno's death. So a conflict is a problem. They struggle with his death. So Hachiko can't accept that his owner has died, right? That's a sad thing for him. And he goes back to the station every day. Kantaro struggles with Dr. Ueno's death because now Hachiko doesn't have an owner, and that makes him really sad. So your two questions here are how do they deal with these problems? So how do they handle the problems? That's your first question. So how does Hachiko handle the problem of losing Dr. Ueno, and how does Kentaro deal with it? And then what happens after? So after they kind of deal with it, what is the result? What happens after they? Oh man, what happens after they? Okay, so start filling out that question, please. I'm gonna get this pulled back up, and hopefully it'll work for me. Okay, so be answering number 3, please. How do they handle the death of Dr. Ueno? Okay. Do about 2 minutes on this to question number 3. And if you notice, someone else is using my thing too and has an answer there, so feel free to steal it. It's a good one. Okay, about 1 more minute, and then I'm gonna look at number 4, or we're all gonna look at number 4. Okay. Alrighty. So number 4, we are gonna focus on paragraphs 18 through 24, where Kentaro meets Mr. Kobayashi, and how does this scene relate to the whole story? So why is it important for the whole story? So I'm gonna go over here and read paragraphs 18 through 24. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm going to read it and then you guys are going to answer how does this relate to the whole story? Why is it important? So it says, Mama and Papa let me take food and water to Hachiko every day. Other people at the station took an interest in Hachiko. Men and women who rode Papa and Dr. Ueno's train stopped by to scratch his ears and say a few kind words. One day I saw an old man filling Hachiko's water bowl as Hachiko licked his hand. The old man's hair was streaked with gray, and he was stooped as if he had spent most of his life bent over the ground, but his eyes were as sharp and as bright as Hachiko's. Are you young Kentaro? The old man asked. I nodded. I am Mr. Kobayashi. I was Dr. Ueno's gardener. Dr. Ueno told me that you and Hachiko often wait for the afternoon train together. Do you still take care of the house where Dr. Ueno lived? I asked. Yes, said Mr. Kobayashi. Hachiko comes back to the house every night to sleep on the porch, but in the morning he walks to the station just like he did with Dr. Ueno. When the last train leaves the station, he returns home. We were both silent, and then I asked, Do you think Hachiko knows that Dr. Ueno died? Mr. Kobayashi said thoughtfully, I don't know, Kentaro. Perhaps he still hopes that Dr. Ueno will return someday. Or perhaps he knows that Dr. Ueno is dead, but he waits at the station to honor his master's memory. So, we have that scene where Kentaro meets Mr. Kobayashi. Why is that important to the story? Why is this scene important to the story? Okay, that's what you're answering right there for number 4. Give you about 2 minutes to do that one. Why would that scene be important to the story? All right, about 1 more minute, and then we're going to do another section here. Alrighty. So, I am going to go ahead and close out of Analyze, Craft, and Structure. Okay. So we have done everything under making meaning. So you should be done with making meaning. If you're not, make sure you go back and complete the comprehension check. That one is graded, as well as the Analyze, Craft, and Structure that we just did. Also graded. So make sure you complete at least those two. Okay? And then what we're going to do is go down to language development. And then we're actually going to skip the first 3 sections. So concept vocabulary, skip. Don't need to do it. Word study, we're going to skip. You don't need to do it. Same with word network. We're going to skip that one too. You don't need to do it. But we are going to be working on the conventions. So I need you guys to open the conventions and just let me know when you get there, please. Mr. Turner is inside. Yep. Okay, so go ahead and open up that conventions and just let me know when you are there, please. Okay. You guys can still hear me, right? Still good? Just gonna double check. I'm gonna give you guys a minute to get that pulled up. Someone's gonna walk by with a cart, so I'm gonna let them walk by and turn my microphone off so it's not too loud. Okay. So, should double check. Someone please answer. Can you guys hear me? All good? Can you still hear me talking? Yes, no, maybe so. Alright, well, hopefully you guys are behind the screen there, or else you're just going to keep falling behind. So let's keep going. I'll start explaining, giving you time. So conventions, we are under language development conventions. We're going to talk about some spelling and capitalization today. So most nouns will follow the straightforward spelling rules when changing from singular to plural. For example, you simply add an S or an ES to the end of a singular word to make it plural. So nouns like train, watch, and hero are all singular, but to make them plural, you would add an S or an ES. So the plural forms are trains, watches, and heroes. Other nouns need additional spelling changes to go from singular to plural. For these irregular plurals, you're going to follow the following rules. So this box right here. So if the word ends with a consonant plus a Y, so things like story or memory, you're going to change the Y to an I and add ES. So story changes to stories. Drop the Y, add an IES. Same with memories. Drop the Y, add an IES. Okay? If the word ends in an F or FE, you are going to drop the F and change it to a V and either add ES or S. So for life, you drop the F and the E, change it to a V and add ES. So it's lives. For yourself, drop the F, change it to a V, and add the ES. So there's a couple of rules for that one. So keep those in mind. And then capitalization. This is the big one that I've noticed that happens with you guys a lot. It is also important to follow rules for the correct capitalization. So here are some rules for capitalization. All right, so the first one, always capitalize the first word in a sentence. We know this, but sometimes it just doesn't happen in your writing. So make sure you capitalize the first word of your sentence. Okay? Always capitalize the first word in dialogue. So when you see quotes or you're adding your own quotes, remember to capitalize the first word in there. So the B right here is capitalized, but this is one that I see a lot lately too. You must always capitalize the I. If you have a singular pronoun I went to the store. Someone and I did something. You need to capitalize your I. I is capitalized always when it's alone. Then you've got proper nouns or an adjective. So this is Shibuya Station. It's a proper noun. It's the name of a place. So you need to capitalize Shibuya and station. And then if it's the person's name or part of their title, you need to capitalize that. So doctor is always capitalized, and then Ueno is the name, so you need to capitalize the name. Notice that we also have some quotes here, and the H at the beginning of your quote is capitalized, and then the name, Hachiko, is also capitalized. Okay, so there's some capitalization rules. And then, for this part, oh my gosh, your number one here, we're going to correct the capitalization. Just the capitalization. You don't need to do anything but the capitalization. So, capitalize the things that need to be capitalized. In this first one, there are 3 mistakes to capitalize. Okay, you need to capitalize 3 things in number 1. Okay, so I'll give you about 1 minute to capitalize that stuff in number 1, please. Go ahead and work on number 1. Okay, 3 mistakes in number 1, please correct them. Okay, if you're struggling on what to capitalize, go back up to those capitalization rules and use them. That is what they're there for you to look back on. They're like notes, so make sure you use them. Okay, about one more minute. Okay, all right. Part B. Again, you are fixing the capitalization, so you're capitalizing the correct things here. In this one, you have 3 mistakes to capitalize again. So capitalize 3 things in that sentence. I'll give you another minute or so to do that one. Okay, 3 mistakes in that one. Alrighty, so part B should be good there, and then we have part C here. In this one, you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 corrections here. 5 mistakes to capitalize. Okay, there are 5 in this one. Okay, so I'll give you a couple minutes to work on this one. Okay, so overall, this part of the assignment is 11 points, 1 point for each mistake. So make sure that you get that done. And that is actually all that we are going to do in the story today. So you can close up language development and the conventions. We are done with that part. Now, hopefully you guys are still there. We got one last thing to do, and I'm going to introduce it and just let you guys work. So in Google Classroom, if you reload it, you should now have an assignment called Hachiko Point of View Paragraphs. So you can open that up and get that document opened up, please. Okay? So I'm going to give you about a minute to get that open. 1 minute to get that open, please. Alright. This assignment is just a 2 to 3 paragraph thing. You don't even need to do any research or anything. You're just basically rewriting the story. So, you're going to rewrite the story of Hachiko from Hachiko's point of view. So, from the dog's point of view. So, instead of writing it from Kentaro's point of view, where he was the little boy at the station, it was told in his point of view. You are now going to write it from Hachiko's point of view. So, him going to the train station every day to see his owner, walking home with his owner, going back the next morning, going home and then waiting, and then coming back the next day, and then his owner dies. How does that make him feel? So you're writing it from his point of view, from the dog's point of view. I'd like you to write at least 2 to 3 paragraphs because you guys are capable. So 2 to 3 paragraphs. And I need you to tell me the main parts of the story. So the big things. What did Hachiko do every day? Dr. Ueno died. How did he feel? What happened after that? Did he go somewhere or did he end up at the station? How did his life go? So you're telling all of these things from Hachiko's point of view. You need to make sure that you're writing this in first person point of view. So you're saying words like I, me, we, things like that. I went to the train station. I felt this. We did this. Okay? And then you just want to make sure that you include details about what Hachiko was doing. So what was he doing in the story? What he might have been thinking. So you're in the dog's mind here. What might he have been thinking about? Maybe while he was waiting, or when his owner died, or after his owner died. What was he thinking about? And then what was he experiencing? What were his thoughts and feelings through all of the story? So you should be able to get 2 to 3 paragraphs from Hachiko's point of view. So you're basically retelling the story in his point of view. Okay, so that is your assignment for that one. Does that make sense? What you need to do for that? A little yes or no would be awesome. Something to let me know that you understand that writing assignment. All right. So that is the last thing you're doing today. So you should have, for this class, for this lesson, you should have done with me analyze, craft, and structure under making meaning. That one is graded. So analyze, craft, and structure. You should have also done the conventions. This one is graded, so fixing up a couple of sentences with capitalization. Okay, and then in Google Classroom, you have this point of view writing assignment that you need to do, where you are writing the story from Hachiko's point of view. So that is your goal for the day. Since you know what you need to be doing, I'm not going to require